afterwards. Yeah. The webinar receives the support from the Employment and Social Innovation Program managed directly by the European Commission. Then here on the next slide, you see a short overview how the program is structured. So basically you have two big strands. On the left side in the blue boxes, you see the EaSI Technical Assistance, which is then substructured into two strands, both strands serving the MCPs, but one strand is more focusing really on the capacity building services, which is led by Frankfurt School in a consortium together with European Microfinance Network and MFC. And you have a second strand, which is about institutional assessments and ratings, which is led by MFR. Then on the right-hand side, you see the strand that is implemented by the European Investment Fund. And here in yellow, you see the EaSI financial instruments, the guarantee, the capacity building window, as well as the funded instruments. And in gray, the EaSI grants, which also include the transaction costs and business development services grant. So these are all the services that were available under the EaSI program. Now we're coming very, very close to the end. Actually, it's the last week. The program ends now in July. And the successor program is on its way, the InvestEU program. A lot of continuation, also a few changes, but today, so I think it's still interesting. So you have the picture because it's still relatively relevant, but yeah, the name is changing, and also some aspects of the program are going to change. In the next slide, you see an overview what we have been providing under the technical assistance part. So we have the top of the pyramid, which are the capacity building services, which include more tailored trainings, which directly aimed at beneficiaries, selected beneficiaries, MFIs, I mean. In the middle, you have the European Code of Good Conduct, which for which we also provide training, so you can comply with it, and which is a prerequisite to have access to the financial instruments. And then at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the dissemination of best practices and the help desk. And the webinar, for example, that we're having today is part of that type of services, right? And these are available to everyone in the European microcredit sector, basically. Then I think on the next, there you see the timeline. And here, yeah, just some email addresses in case you have questions that we could not address here today, but there you go. Here, yeah, so we're on the WebEx platform. It's quite standard. You have mainly 3 ways of putting your questions, but since we're a really small group, honestly, I'm fine if you just speak up and we get in a conversation more than a presentation. But yeah, just for formality, you can use the icon to raise the hand so we know that you want to be given the floor. There's also a chat box where you can put chat with anyone in the meeting today, or use the Q&A section for writing some questions in there to the panelists. Okay. Yes, I will get to my invited guests in a minute. So today the objective is to basically share with you some insights that we have learned from the program, some lessons learned formulated by Cristina Dumitrescu for everything that is related to the financial instruments, and Cheryl Lowe for the capacity building services. As I mentioned already, the program is coming to an end, and the other one is already on its way. Let's say it's already in the starting block. So for the financial instruments, it's actually already started. So you could ask yourself, why, is this now interesting? Because basically we are wrapping up, or will be wrapping up, the program very soon, and we will also formulate recommendations still, especially linked to the capacity building services. So even though the big framework is already defined, I think we can also work on more operational tasks. So from that perspective, I think we're very much interested also on your feedback that you have on the program. So yeah, this is the idea how we can make it interactive, right? That you also let us know what you expect for the going forward, and also how you liked or what you didn't like about the past. Okay. So yeah, my guests are very much or very directly involved. So Christina, she's the senior investment manager in the inclusive finance team at the EIF, the European Investment Fund. And without further ado, Christina, I think you can kick off and share with us your lessons learned from the financial instruments under the EaSI program. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And it's true that we are at the end of a programming period and at the end of a very nice program, I would say, for microfinance and social entrepreneurship, both in terms of financial instruments, but also in terms of technical assistance, various advisory and capacity building services. About the financial instruments, as you know, we launched the EaSI Guarantee back in 2015. If I recall correctly, the first European Microfinance Day we celebrated in October 2015 meant also the signature of the first 6 guarantee agreements under EaSI program. During the time until today, from those 6 agreements, we have reached 166 today, with more than 100 financial institutions, out of which 27 are EMN members. The numbers on the screen, I think, speak for themselves. We have already reached almost 150,000 micro and social entrepreneurs, and we have preserved more than 400,000 jobs. But the number that impressed me a lot, I have to say, was this 79% unbanked or no prior loans before accessing a loan guaranteed by the EaSI instrument, which means that we have really reached, with this program, the unbankables. We have really reached the ones that are excluded from the financial sector. Moving on to the second product, the EaSI Capacity Building, that was a small pilot, only 40 million euros, that have been contracted with 17 financial intermediaries from the micro and social finance space. Out of them, 9, so basically half, are members of the EMN. These transactions were meant to improve the institutional capacities of the microfinance or social finance providers. And the majority of this money went into improving the IT infrastructure or various digitalization tools and platforms, allowing the microfinance providers to offer better, faster services to their clients. We are still in the investment period for the EaSI funded instrument. So lessons learned from the third instrument, probably sometimes during the next couple of years. Now, we have thought about having this webinar a bit more interactive. So I would kindly ask you to open your mobiles and try to go into the slido.com website. You have the code on the screen, and to try to answer the first question we have prepared for you today. What part from the implementation of the EaSI financial instruments do you find most difficult? Application process, appraisal and due diligence exercise, discussing and signing the legal agreements, or reporting, monitoring, and audit? Okay, that's nice, I have to say. Everybody answered? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder, looking at the list of attendees who signed agreements, I see few names of practitioners, but maybe not everyone can answer. So
yes, in fact, I'm not the right person to answer to this. It will be my colleagues in charge of the current agreements with the Frankfurt School and the EaSI Technical System Program.
Ah, yeah, I see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I cannot say it's not unexpected because we have received this feedback during the years. That's good. That's good. Even better.
Okay, so you have a preferred result, I understand, Christina.
Yeah, we have a preferred result, which, as mentioned, it was not unexpected as we have received this feedback over the years during various meetings or EaSI technical assistance workshops or webinars more recently. Okay, as you know, during the more or less, this is what we have also observed in practice. And that's why we have always tried to provide as much assistance as possible, especially during the application process, where we are always assisting you in preparing such an application. And we are providing comments on the draft application before you send it officially. While for the reporting, monitoring, and audit, you know that we have prepared a reporting manual, which is sent to you immediately upon signing the guarantee agreement. But also our front office colleagues, the relationship managers, or our back office colleagues are always available for a chat or for a clarification. On the legal documentation, yes, that's the nice part, if you want, because we know it's difficult. We know that our contracts are not, let's say, very easy to follow, but you are benefiting, hopefully, from our help and assistance during the entire process.
Okay.
Other observations that we have made while implementing this product, we have seen quite a large interest from various microfinance and social finance providers for the guarantee instrument. That's why if you, Francesca, you can move on to the next slide. The guarantee budget for InvestEU have been increased slightly, not too much compared to what we had in the past. And we have to be honest, from the 25 million pilot under old European Progress Microfinance guarantee instrument to the EaSI guarantee, we started with 96 million euros that were further enhanced with the support of the EaSI program.
Mm-hmm.
We have reached something like 4 to 5 to somewhere between actually is up to 600 million euros, but it includes also skills and education pilot that was served separately under EaSI. Some other observations is that the non-bank financial institutions reach more borrowers, especially the vulnerable groups, because for them it's easier to serve the non-bankables, which are the majority of final recipients, especially in microfinance. But banks have larger capacities, so they can reach more volumes, can disburse more loans to micro and social finance, micro and social entrepreneurs. The impact data reporting is key to obtain those numbers that that were so impressive on my earlier slide. And it's only our big thank you for the data that you are collecting and you are reporting to us, but at the same time is our request to the market to try to collect as much data as possible and to send it to us, because only based on these numbers we can improve the product moving forward. Speaking about the capacity building investments product, there is a high interest for subordinated loans on the market. And this is obviously because it's an easier way to strengthen your capital position, which will further allow for leveraging and for additional funding to be dedicated to your on-lending transactions. As mentioned by you in the slide poll, there is a huge need for advisory, both pre-application and post-signature of the transaction. Especially the non-banks are requiring this advice, and on the legal documentation, we have observed that local legal advice and in-house lawyers are not that easy to find in the non-bank financial institutions. And another observation that I would have to say it, and I would have to thank you for that, is whenever we are coming for a monitoring visit, or whenever European Court of Auditors is coming for an audit mission with one of our intermediaries, we are receiving full support from your side. And despite our numerous questions, maybe not very friendly attitude, let's put it this way, because we all know the auditors are auditors, okay? So they have a job to do. But your friendliness, your cooperation, your patience is very, very much appreciated. You know that we have already launched the InvestEU program, and some of you already applied, and we are in the process of appraising these applications.
Mm-hmm.
I can only invite each one of you to check our website, and for any questions you have on the old programs, on the new programs, on how to better assist you in better serving your clients, feel free to call. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Caroline.
Thanks, Christina. No, it's good to hear, because also now in the conference, I got to talk to several members who are asking questions, right? And I understand EIF can also offer a lot of support with everything linked to the financial instruments, right? To be it legal documentation or the application process, they can directly come to you. That's great and important help, I suppose. Thank you for that. Now I would suggest that we go to the next part of the presentation. So we were talking about financial instruments, and now we're switching gears towards the capacity building services, which somehow go hand in hand, because the objective of this whole program is to develop the market, develop the capacities of the intermediaries, and to have better outreach in terms of financial inclusion. So let me just introduce you to my next speaker, Cheryl Lowe. She's a senior project manager at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management and key expert within the EaSI TA program, with a focus on inclusive finance and green sustainable finance. She possesses more than 9 years of experience working with international financial institutions and donors, including the EU, EBRD, EIB, UNDP, and Green Climate Fund. She has designed and implemented multiple technical assistance programs, market assessments, and credit lines in the areas of green economy, financing, financial inclusion, and SME finance, with a focus on Europe and Central Asia. With this profile, I think we're in very good hands to learn a little bit about the lessons learned on the capacity building services. So Cheryl, I think I don't need to introduce you anymore. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for the introduction. So without further ado, let's start a bit with an overview of our work in the capacity building advisory services during this program period for EaSI since 2018 up to now as the program comes to an end. So looking on the left column, you can see that in terms of our tailored trainings, we are very pleased to have had a chance to work with 72 institutions in the EU and reached out and trained more than 1,000 participants through our trainings. In the middle part of the column, you can see that we have also worked a lot with institutions, about 60 of them, on code technical assistance trainings as well, and supported them in doing their self-assessments and acquainting themselves with the technical aspects of the code in order to be compliant with the code and to increase the quality of their operations and access to funding. And lastly, on the third part of the column, you can see a lot of our work also focuses on exchange events, like what Caroline had shared at the beginning with the graph, with the pyramid. We also do a lot of sector outreach and awareness raising through workshops, webinars, peer trainings, and study visits. And with this, during this period, I think we're also very pleased that we had the chance to reach out to more than 5,000 participants. So I think this slide aims to give an overview in terms of our outreach for programs and also for custom-made tailored trainings. Thank you. So here, as part of our interaction from Christina, taking on to the next poll question, we wanted to, maybe get your feedback, right, back from to the slido.com website that you probably already have on your phone opened. If we can get your input to the following question: which of the following topics do you think was of high interest for the microcredit providers during this period, 2018 to 2021? So we have done some internal checks on our database in terms of the topics for the institutions, and we would like to hear from you. What do you think was the most interesting topic for the microcredit providers during this period? So I'll probably give some moments for you to get into the website and maybe just give your responses if it's convenient. Yeah, I think in the context during this period, we did have one force majeure event, which is the corona pandemic, and I think it did have an overarching impact as well. So I think that's also the big picture macroeconomic environment that the institutions were operating in.
Yeah, and it's not about what the main topic was for yourself, but for in general, right? For the whole sector, what was the important topic in this very different period, right? Yeah, the first 2 years was business as usual, and then the corona hit, and so it's really kind of a mixed period we're looking at.
Yep.
I think, yeah, okay. So we have 2 responses.
Okay.
This one anyone can answer, even if you did not take part or did not have the chance to take part in the program. It's really just about what do you think was most relevant at that stage.
Yeah, so maybe I can already build on the first responses on risk management. Yeah, I think definitely this was one of the high-ranking topics that we saw many institutions reach out under the EaSI program for trainings. And this is very understandable, I guess, during this period where there was a much increased need for understanding how the corona pandemic affects their loan portfolio and how to better manage the risks, the market risk involved. So on this topic, we see many institutions, wanting to improve their risk management frameworks, their risk policies, and also at that peak period, in the first 1 to 1.5 years of the pandemic, there was a struggle, right? Also because of the contact restrictions to reach out to the clients. So I think there was a lot of upheaval in the operations, but I think through these trainings and also the general attitude and approaches of the institutions, this is also the resilience that we see in the sector, that the management of these institutions reached out, in the areas where they felt that they could get the benefits and support from. So in terms of the tailored trainings, we did work with a lot of institutions in this area. So maybe we can move on to the next slide. So risk management was one of them, and with 17% of the trainings, and then the other one was on marketing, sales, and CRM, which is in the majority of the trainings, up to 23%. And then I think this part was also, like what Caroline mentioned, partially influenced by the pandemic, at least in the second half of the program. But that's also where, we see that during the period where there were lockdowns, institutions still did not want, they still wanted to invest in their staff skills, right? So we also got feedback that this is the time when, the restrictions get lighter, that they can strengthen their approach and reach out to their clients even better. And even though a lot of them, like the loan officers, still maintained a lot of contact with their clients and understood their needs during this crisis period, institutions also wanted to make sure that it didn't include just the regular way of engaging their clients, but also maybe look into other channels like digital channels as well. So the part on marketing and sales came up in the forefront, almost in equal weight with the attention on risk management practices. Okay, to the next slide, please. And then another core component of our work in the EaSI TA program is the Code Technical Assistance Training, which is a 3-day training that we work with institutions. And here is just a high-level statistic in terms of the number of signups. So we've had 56 microcredit providers from 17 countries having received or are currently receiving TA to implement the code. So we see that building up also from the momentum of the predecessor program since 2015, the code is increasingly recognized as an important standard and quality label for microcredit providers. And then to the next slide, here is also where we would maybe like to invite to get some interaction from the participants in the room today. Yeah, in terms of the code, if you're already familiar with it or you have undergone the TA before or are already compliant, could we get your feedback in terms of what section of the code you thought was most challenging to be compliant to? Or if not, if you're still not familiar with the code or then perhaps, looking at different sections here to think about what you think could be most challenging for your institution if you would like to be compliant with the different sections. Maybe I can also give a simple overview in terms of what are the different sections of the code. So the code itself is divided into 5 main sections. Yep. So the first section on customer and investor relations, we are really looking at how the institution reaches out to its client via its set of products. So here it's about a set of priority and non-priority clauses linked to the products, the lending policies the institution has. The second section here on governance, we are really looking at the governance structure, like the board of directors, the senior management roles, etc., that supports the operations of the microcredit provider. And then the third section on risk management is also something we have covered a bit in the previous slide, which is talking about risk management policies and frameworks to manage the risk inherent in the portfolio, like PAR 30, for example. And finally, we have section 4, which is the part on reporting standards in line with the MICPRO system that some of you might be already familiar with. And then the last part is making sure that there is a strong MIS system that supports the collection of data or the statistics within the institution. Okay, so perhaps I think maybe I would just, because some of us may not be familiar or maybe it might be not too convenient to give your inputs. Maybe Caroline, if you would like to add in any parts here, or we could wait for a couple of moments, or in fact, we could also share a bit on how we see it, when we work with institutions on the code TA.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking it's interesting also, as you were talking about section 4 and you were mentioning the EaSI MICPRO platform. In the new program, we already know that the MICPRO tool will not be there anymore, and it will be simplified in a way, because the Big Pro was also a challenge in itself. And so we have been working with the Commission also together with the partners from the consortium and also as a network to go towards a solution that is more user-friendly and more easier to implement. So this is also a thing happening here. Just I think the EaSI Micro is ending now, end of June or July, and then from that on, you only need to report the data in the way you would normally report it on and provide it to the external evaluator.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, I noted something in the chat from one of the participants. Let me just read it here. It says, my colleagues at Krasasua would be at a better position to answer as we are getting to the end. All right, thank you. Thank you for this response, Rafael. So indeed, we've worked with Krasasua on the Code TA program with our expert on working with the institution through the different sections. So if you would like to add something now, feel free to, or if not, I mean, what I would like to, coming back to the question here and also building on Caroline's sharing, would be that we see it really depends on the size of the institution and the type of institution in terms of their experience with the code. Right, so if we have a smaller institution, let's say 5-10 man outfit versus a 500-man outfit, I think very clearly some sections immediately become more challenging. Did somebody want to add a comment? So I'm not sure if I'm interrupting. Okay, but anyway, so I would
sounded more like background noise, I think.
Okay, so yeah, so the size of the institution is one measure. So I think, for example, for smaller institutions, they are not too formalized, so getting a more wide range of, let's say, policies might be less. So they are less structured in that sense, and therefore some parts of the code is actually a good process for them through the TA to be aware that there is, as the organization grows, that they could have a more structured way of managing different aspects of the business, like ranging from, a proper HR policy, remuneration policies, or customer complaint systems. So I think this is where the code wants to value add to growing institutions, to give them a chance and understanding of what aspects they could consider as they are growing. So that's the part on, that's my main comment to this question here. All right, so I'm just keeping a view of the time here. Moving on in terms of our outreach events. So if you look to the left-hand side of the graph, and I think it also reflects the situation at the time, more than about 50% of our events went online through webinars. And I thought that, that was also very well received. Because it was a period of time where most people were at home, working from home office, and there was still a chance to reach out, right, to everyone. But of course, this was really during this more core period in the first year and a half. After that, we also saw that there was some fatigue from online events, and now I think back in this phase, we are getting back into the full physical presence type events. So I think for the upcoming program, we would also see a shift in terms of what are the most effective channels to reach out to our clients and to our beneficiaries. All right, then maybe we can move on to the next slide, Francesca. Here, I would just end off my sharing today with the story of Foom Savings House, which is a case study, and to showcase how our tailored training programs can support institutions in their journey for achieving certain priorities for themselves. Like in this case, for Foom Savings House, maybe I'll just do a quick introduction here. It has it was established in 1999 in North Macedonia and has 11,794 members in 2020 with 6 branches. So moving on to the next slide, Francesca, they are actually looking to have a much more effective digital program. So to digitalize themselves from their sales aspects and also to make sure that their internal processes support it. So the whole focus of this tailored training allowed them, the senior management team, but also the loan officers at the end, to discuss and to start implementing some digital techniques that were suitable for them. So one major outcome of this tailored training program, which received really good feedback, was to get a very customized action plan and roadmap how can we digitalize, and what are the different steps to take. So what is the components of a digitalization strategy to ensure that we still and get our outcomes, in terms of reaching out to our customers or for customer retention goals, etc. So this is a case where I think the institution was able to effectively use the period of time of tailored training days to get something out that is tangible. And not only that, after the training, they are able to take this roadmap forward and implement them, right, in terms of hiring new staff or adjusting its internal operations to be aligned with the new digital roadmap that they have created. So I think this is where I think we would still like to highlight that the tailored trainings have that benefit in the fact that it's custom made. So through our needs analysis, we sit down with our clients to understand what their priorities and goals are. And we will assign the right experts with the right expertise and knowledge of the local context to get them to achieve these goals through the trainings that we have accomplished with the institution. And yeah, so I think I would end it off as that. Caroline, back to you.
Thanks, Cheryl. I think, we have heard now from our perspective, or from Cheryl's and Christina's perspective, what the lessons learned. But I think, well, I'm pretty sure the objective of today was also to hear a little bit from you. So now it's basically some time to give you the chance to come up with your question or comments, right? What you have thought. I think I recognize some names in the attendees of you attended maybe to some study visits in the past, or you took some training. I also understand it's not always you, so just in case, if you can either put us in the chat box your question, or you can also just give us a sign. You can raise the hand or just simply unmute. We're quite a small group today. So I don't see.
Caroline, if I may
Yes.
interrupt you, I see a question in the Q&A from Steve asking to mention, I think it's for Cheryl, is asking to mention the sectors of the 55 institutions. Maybe it refers to the beneficiaries of the trainings. Maybe we can go back to the slide of Cheryl. I think he was referring to this one. You can also, Steve, you can also speak up if you want, because you are unmuted.
Hi. I think I asked about what are the clients of these 56 institutions that are taking using the microfinance. Who are their clients? What sectors they are serving? This is only my question. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Steve. So I think it actually covers a wide range of sectors. So it's not just focused on them. A lot of them depend on how where the institutions are located. If it's a more rural type, if it's more focused on the rural market, then we would expect sectors like agriculture or light industry to be included. However, if it's more for, let's say, city type or say non-rural urban businesses, then it could be more the F&B business. That would be, so it would be the wide range and the typical client segmentation for microcredit institutions.
Yeah, indeed. I think I hear often everything that's linked to Horeca, restaurant, right? What you would call B&B. Also construction. I've heard
services.
that, or there's a little, so like hairdressers or beauty salons, these kind of small services or small businesses, right? Which are facing a big exclusion from the banks, right? So usually these are sectors that have more difficulties in reaching bank loans and are looking more for alternatives, such as a microcredit. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that question, Steve.
Thank you.
Does it? Okay, I didn't know. Yours, is it what you were looking for, right?
Yeah, correct. This is what I'm looking. I'm now. This is my first steps into the contact with European Union microfinance. So I will go deeper, and this is why I'm following these webinars.
Super.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So if there is nobody, maybe it helps because also for going forward, and Cheryl insisted or mentioned this quite a bit, right? That due to Corona, everything went much more digital. Also, your needs turned out to be more on the digital side. You know, how do I improve my outreach channels digitally? How do I provide my clients much more digitally? And also us, right, as capacity building service providers, we also had to turn much more into digital channels. And now basically we are having the choice, right? Because many of you or many of us have adjusted, you know, we're much more familiar now. We're doing webinars and we have discovered the beauty of it, you know, it takes less time usually, it's less costly simply. Also, you could have, you know, maybe a larger group participating than on on-site events. But then it's also, there are also downsides to it, right? And I'm mostly or notably thinking about attention spans when in these kind of webinars, we keep them always intentionally quite short. But we could also imagine that we can provide more training services online. I was just wondering if anyone in the audience would like to react to that. How did you experience that? The switch to online, and what do you think is the future, or what you would like us also to see doing? Is it online versus offline or in person? Because we all understand the in person has a lot of advantages, but you know, not only. So I guess it's about a good mix, but finding the right middle zone. That's an interesting one. I don't know if anyone from you wants to share experience, if you know, discovered also what you thought like before wasn't possible to do online, and then finally, you know, you were obliged to, and maybe you found out that it was. Any experience on that anyone wants to share? Don't be shy. No, I don't see my reaction unless Francesca, you say something I don't see.
I was about to say something, if I
May I say something?
Please.
Okay. The information, as I know, is the most valuable thing in the world, but if it is shared. So any way of communication of this information between all parties, it's a very considerable thing and important. So with webinar, with emails, with information shared through documentation, to visit to the websites, and this information is very well appreciated to all parties. For myself, I will go through through reading and in deep reading on microfinance, and in the application of this, I see a lot of application of microfinance in Europe, especially after the crisis of the pandemic, and now also about the change to clean energy. I see a lot of intervention there that it can be done due to microcredit to be allowed to individual, that to help to go to this change from the energy based on fuel to the clean energy based on, let's say, sun and something like that. This is the case I imagined it.
It's true that sustainability is not just a topic for the microfinance providers, right? But everyone traveling, you know, everyone organizing events or sessions online on site has to bear this in mind, and we have to find strategies around that as well.
Yeah, maybe I could add on to that as well, Steve. I think you have also touched on an important point, clean energy. I think there is also the role for microfinance institutions to finance these investments, right? To support clients in decarbonizing. And I think this is already the ball has started rolling. I mean, with the Paris Agreement and also the EU Sustainable Finance Action Plan. I think it's really starting more from banking sector right now, where the disclosure requirements are already coming onto place, right, for both mandatory and voluntary disclosures. But I think for the microfinance sector, there's a lot of also opportunities that are coming up. And we have, during the period of this EaSI program, we have talked a lot about green loans, green finance, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to expand this, like what you are saying, the investments in renewable energy and supporting, let's say, producers or traders or vendors in these areas. And I think even the clients of the MFIs, like say even restaurants, from restaurants to shops, ateliers, have all the chance to go green. And MFIs can also finance those sustainable strategies that are being developed. So I think we expect this as a trend also in the upcoming program. Thanks for sharing on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it's Raphael, right?
Yes, it is. To be honest, we just signed at CASA, so we signed the agreement to start all the road about the European Code just a few months before the COVID outbreak. So this, as it was totally a new challenge for all the organization, for all the people involved, and the people is, the staff have different background, different experiences. So we don't know really what would be all the program, all the steps that we have to fulfill to get to the end. And when COVID came, of course, that all the programming actions, all the time scale have to be adapted. And in fact, we expected from the beginning that we had much more face-to-face interactions, during that period. But of course, we had to adjust our way of working, and I think it proved to be prove to be very flexible, to arrange solutions and in fact to reach the final goal. And we are really expecting that now that we are really getting to the very end of this activity, because we had a couple of weeks ago the final field visit from a person from the microfinance rating for the final field work with the team in Azores. So it was quite good to understand that we have managed to overcome the major steps. So now we are very curious to see what will be the final outcome, what will be the final steps until the very end, and to see how far did we manage to succeed in all the steps that we have to accomplish. Getting to the question that you made also, of course, we have been, during these 2 years, most of our time being with webinars or online conversations with partners, with funders, in the country and outside the country. And my experience now that since the beginning of the spring of 2022, we have been able to be together again face-to-face on physical events. My conclusion is that physical events have one major big advantage, which is the possibility of networking, possibility of a much more deeper contacts and conversations with peers, with partners, that on an online chat it's not so. We are limited on time, and we don't have the flexibility to have a side conversation just on a specific topic that may be of interest to just a few people. I've been in Barcelona last month, and where I had the chance to have a quick chat with Christina, so it's nice to see you again. And of course, that's a good example how I have met her physically a few weeks ago. Now it's good to see it on the screen. And in fact, I think the future will be a combination of the two ways of contact, because we can be more practical and more maybe productive on online events if we have just a too specific agenda that we have to respect. If we have to have a more broader conversation or broader ideas, physical events will be important anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael, for this insight, and it resonates a lot with me and my conclusions on how this works. I mean, the coexistence is inevitable, and I think that's also the nice thing of it, right? It's just always about finding the right format for what you want to do, and to have a little bit of everything. Because when you were saying it's not that I thought like what you were saying is it's not so fulfilling, right? If you only have the online networking, it's not, you do not get to the same connection, you do not get to build the same links as when you have a extra coffee with a person, and it's not easily replaceable. But once this first connection is done, then you know the other contacts will flow also much more easier, right? I think this is just how we humans are built. But
we all miss human touch. That's so simple as that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
No, it's very, yes, thank you also for sharing, and also good to hear that you have gone through the evaluation with MFR, and hopefully soon we have another EMN member then certified with the code. Very great. I'm seeing we have gone through over our topics. We have had a little discussion. I see also some attendees have already left because we are running over time also. Unless there's something final anyone wants to share, I would suggest that we conclude for now. I want to thank you very much, Christina, for sharing her lessons learned, and I'm also particularly amazed about the 79%. It's a figure I will remember very clearly, and so the 79% of targeted were unbanked before, so which is indeed a big success for the program, but also for the general cause we are working for, right? The program serves a bigger cause, so that's indeed a very impressive figure. And Cheryl, thank you very much for your insights, covering all the different topics that we have been going through over the capacity building services, and yeah, very much thanking for your contributions here. Thank you also to the attendees for showing your interest and spending your valuable time with us today. We will circulate the video, and as you hang up, you will be prompted a feedback form. This is really our food, let's say. We can build up on this, so if you have other thoughts that come in, you can also leave them in the feedback form with us, and in any case you know how to find us if something comes up. So thank you again, and wish you all a perfect nice day. Stay in touch. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.